Do a deep dive into educational apps and how to effectively evaluate them. There are numerous educational apps out there. In this video, I'm going to give you a quick overview of how to determine the gems from the duds. Fear not, I'm going to give you some simple ways to evaluate these tools to help revolutionize how you use them in the classroom. Step 1. Clearly identify your educational goals with these applications and how you're going to use them with your students. Be sure to define your educational goals and objectives and how these apps can help serve them. Consider what you want this tool to achieve in the classroom and how the tool will fit into your teaching style and what you need for your students. Having a clear roadmap will help you align the tool with your vision and see if it's going to be effective for you. You could even consider making a list of educational goals with the specific application you're trying to use and have those goal lists available as you begin to use the app and see if it aligns with your vision. An app or software can be packed with great features, but if it's difficult to use, that could be a major roadblock to your success with using it with students and also your instructional approach. Step 3, compatibility and accessibility. Step 4, age-appropriate content. Different age groups have different learning needs. If the technology tool supports a range of student use at different age levels, make sure that the tool also supports the developmental and learning needs of students at those range of age levels. Avoid using tools that can be too simple or too complicated for your users. Step 5, ratings and reviews. Don't just take our word for it. Check out what other educators have to say about the app you plan on using and see if any of their information can help you decide whether or not it's effective for your classroom. Platforms like app stores, educational websites, professional learning communities are all great places to get additional information around apps you intend on using in the classroom and provide some valuable feedback to help you ensure you make the right decision. Step 6. Data privacy and security. When it comes to educational apps, safeguarding student data and also teacher data is not something that you need to take lightly. Examine the app's privacy policy and be sure that they are protecting your students' privacy as well as your own when you decide to use this application. Be sure that the data that's being collected is being used responsibly and securely. Step 7. Educational value and alignment. Does the tool provide valuable learning experiences? Evaluate the tool and how it's going to meet your curriculum and learning objectives. Look for tools that enhance your students' learning experience and cater to your learning objectives in the classroom. Step 8, trial period. Don't deep dive until you get a chance to make a trial of an application before using it in the classroom. Opt for apps that have these trial versions and give you an opportunity to try the app and see if it's going to work effectively for you. Experiment with the tool alongside a group of your students and see if the experience that the app gives you at that time is going to be similar to what you'll be able to do with it when using a larger group of students. Do this before you make a full commitment to the application to help save yourself some time in the long run. Step 9, customer service and support. When you encounter hiccups on your educational journey with these EdTech apps, it's important to have a safety net to make sure that you have some support if something were to go wrong. Reliable customer support is incredibly helpful and can help you get yourself out of a jam if an issue arises. Check to see if the resource you're using has a supportive technical support team that's also aware of how you're planning on using it in the classroom. This is also incredibly helpful during a larger scale implementation of the tool along entire classrooms or grade levels. Last but not least, step 10, long-term viability for the use of this app. The EdTech world moves really quickly. Just be sure that the app you're deciding to use is built for the long run. Getting the most out of an app over a number of years really does mean that the app has sustainability and is well supported and is an important part of the EdTech ecospace and provides a need for its customers. Be sure that the apps that you're choosing to use are provided regular updates and support to help meet your needs in the long run. This will help keep the app sustainable and relative to your institution and classroom. There you have it, 10 simple steps to help you evaluate EdTech tools like a pro. Be sure that your decisions are informed, and good luck on your educational journey with these applications. And in the end, it's all about your students' experience and whether or not they're also learning with these applications as effectively as you intended. If you found this video helpful, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. I want to continue to provide some more insightful and relative educational content, provide innovative teaching experiences and strategies. Thank you for your time today, and keep learning and exploring. This was a document I created kind of early on in my process where I was like, what's in a good goal? Quantitative measures, growth over time, student feedback on both professional learning and professional practice and student learning goals. And our district is a big, we use student feedback for everything. If you're doing a professional learning goal around learning a new piece of technology, it's super important to, ask students like how it impacts what they're learning. Identify your best practices, also identify your standards, and also identify a pedagogy that's aligned with what you expect for outcomes, and also package apps and resources. So if you have a group of resources that your teachers are commonly using for classroom integration, like Edpuzzle, Streetcastify, any of those resources, package them, and we call them our core apps, but it's an opportunity to kind of say, here's a toolkit to kind of get 90% of what you want to do in terms of enhancing your classroom, and also builds their skill set. And think about 3 cycles of growth. What happens during the course of a year? What do we expect teachers to go from? And remember, these were just like my initial thoughts. I was like, I'd like to see 3 cycles of growth. Something where they're starting, something where they're like hitting a wall a little bit, and then they're kind of having an aha moment. And that's where I was getting deep into the pedagogies. And what's classroom evidence look like, media, feedback, and each goal, we were thinking about having each goal have a Google site, but of course, we have these big connections to UDL, SEL, DEI, computer science, and cybersecurity. So I would recommend anyone who's thinking about doing this, just do like a short list of what's really important in your district and say, you know what, these are things that we can really focus on and narrow it down. And I think what I found was like, knowing what we had put into place over the last couple of years, it simplified what we were dealing with. And then it also helped simplify the beginning of the year professional development, because I was thinking solely about supporting anyone who chose a goal. Because I was picking I was trying to build them up, as opposed to saying, oh, maybe we'll do this specific type of training because it would be cool if they made that. No, I mean more, let's try to walk them through specific types of resources that we kind of can get behind. So essentially I did this for student learning and professional practice goals, kind of based on, and also you have to think about 1 or 2 year goals. Now also first year teachers will set the indicators that they're usually held to, but usually most of the indicators are hit by your goals. So integrating standards, best practices, and self-reflection evidence. And this is a big one that I'm still struggling with, is that the modeling. What does that look like? And I think over the course of this year, I'm going to learn more around what modeling can be. I think some teachers are very comfortable with having someone model something in their classroom, some less. So I think where I'm going to push my team on is what are examples of modeling that we've seen work. Because I think that can be very, very powerful, the modeling piece, because it's basically allowing someone into the classroom to show them something that they were eventually going to either do on their own or try to emulate. So I think we have to look at a lot of different models for modeling. Because modeling is something that I have a big list of resources. When I got into this, I got deeper and deeper into instructional coaching, period. And modeling is one of those big standalone items of instructional coaching. Because you have someone that you're working with that is building you and sustaining you over time. Hi everyone, I want to do a share of a framework for a digital learning rubric that allows you to add other content area instruction onto the rubric, but covers your bases with the digital learning parts. So this can be helpful if you're working at integrating technology with a coach, or even if you're just developing units and lessons on your own and are looking to bring more technology into the lesson. So if we take a look at this digital learning rubric guide, this rubric allows you to, offers that you select two areas to measure how students adapt their learning of technology to the content lessons. These areas can be added to any existing rubric. You could add these to rubrics you already have created. You could modify this rubric idea to use your subject area content. And the goal of the topic areas is that you can support your classroom instruction with the technology. And also you're thinking about how students are using the technology with your content. Now, also there's ways that you can add other skills if you're interested. So let's look at a couple of the options. There's digital learning tools application. So essentially this is when you are asking students to use a specific tool, how they're using the tool, how that tool is going to be used in the project, and what's the expectation for the use. I have a rubric kind of based on entry, adoption, adaption, infusion, transformation. You can use any rubric terms with this type of rubric design, but I just have those as examples. So the first one is just, measuring use of tools. The second area is curriculum and assessment tools. So if you are using an additional digital resource or an assessment tool in the classroom, how well are students using that? Are they advocating for themselves? Are they independent with the use of the tool? Do they need to find additional resources to use the tool effectively? And when you have feedback for them, are they modifying and adjusting their use based on the feedback you provided them? So that one is really if you're bringing additional kind of assessment tools into the classroom, maybe a diagnostic or something where they're doing digital assessments or any other type of assessment that requires technology. Another one is collaboration communication. So if you're asking them to do group work, if you're asking them to work in pairs, if you're asking them to work in small groups, how are they utilizing the technology to best do that? Often, happens very often, but it's a soft skill that needs to be developed and often needs to be developed with technology in mind, and what tools are used and how well they're effectively using those tools. Critical thinking with digital tools. So are they using tools in a way that is encouraging them to think critically around the use of the content, and also how are they using the tools to assist themselves in thinking more critically? Are they revising, editing, thinking of new ideas to bring to the project? And are they analyzing and reflecting? Are they using the tools in a way that's pushing their higher order thinking skills? And finally, creation. So, one of the best parts about digital tools is the ability to create and use them in a creative way. And of course, you should measure that. You should encourage students to be creative with their tools within the framework of your lesson. So that's a great way to introduce encouraging students to be more creative with using the variety of features that are often available within a project or a digital tool that can kind of push their creativity, whether or not they're using something from Adobe or one of the other creative suites like Canva, or an additional tool that pushes them to be creative and use their tools in exciting ways. So these are just areas that you can consider adding to a rubric, and you could modify them. You could select just 2 of these based on your lesson, but ultimately what it can do is it allows you to think around what types of tools do you want to use, how do you want to teach with technology, and most importantly, how are you going to consider measuring how students will use the technology within a content area lesson. Now you could use all of these areas, incorporate just 2, or even just 1 will add a different flavor to how you're assessing students' use of technology in the classroom. So thanks for watching. If you like it, subscribe or like it. And also, I will share out a link to be able to access this document and have your own copy. Welcome to Digital Futures Education. Please like and subscribe.
Hi, this is Dan Downs. I'm just going to go over how to do a LinkedIn business page banner with you. If you notice, the dimensions of a business page banner are 1128 by 191 tall, so 1128 wide by 191 tall. I'm going to go into Canva and we're going to create a custom dimension size for that banner. Now there are templates within Canva that can really help out, but I like to do a custom size and learn what the custom size so I can manipulate it and make it the size I want. So you see I did a custom size, 1128, 191. It's going to make this banner shape. Now you'll see there are some templates that automated on the left side in Canva, which can be helpful. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you how to use a couple of the tools so you have a little bit more control on your own. The first, I'm going to change the background up at the top to a neutral gray color. The focus of this tutorial is really just to learn some basic tools. Now I'm going to move into the text tool and I'm going to do a basic heading with some black text. And I'm going to resize the text, not only with the font size tool, but also pulling on the edges of the text itself within Canva. You also see that if you select all of the text, you can manipulate it and change any feature of it. Right now I'm changing the font style on the left side after I've selected all of the text. And you can also select independent parts of the text, as I'm going to do here, and resize the top part, the digital futures, to be larger. And I'm also going to change the color of that text to draw a little bit more attention to it. So I've selected it, I'm centering it. I made the background black because I'm going to create a little bit of contrast between the text. I turned all of the text white. And now I'm going to select the digital futures text and make that red. Now I have, a font, red and white, add a little contrast, very basic. And now I'm going to center it. And now let's take a look at if we were going to add an image to this. I'm taking a picture of myself, I'm dragging it on, and if you notice an image you can pull and shape any way you want. I am not going to keep this image on here because remember that within the LinkedIn banners on the business pages, you already have your picture there, so you don't need to add another one. But it would work if you wanted to add another graphic, a logo, an icon onto the banner. That's exactly how you would do it. So I'm just fudging my text back a little bit, and now I'm going to export. I'm going to export as a PNG. It's a little bit smaller, faster file for the web. I'm going to click download. I'm now going to locate the download on my computer. And I'm actually going to go in to the LinkedIn page, selecting the location of the LinkedIn banner and identifying the download. I found my download image. I'm going to click open. And it will pop in. It will give you the opportunity to straighten the image, rotate the image, change the image. You can add a filter to your image. You can make the text a little bit larger, but it gives you a preview here within LinkedIn of options for the banner. And that's what it looks like. Centered, if you notice, there's also a photo there that is already there, pre-populated from your LinkedIn profile and also added to this business page. And that's how you update a business header page. Welcome to Digital Futures Education. Please like and subscribe. Hi, this is Dan Downs. I'm just going to go over how to do a LinkedIn business page banner with you. If you notice, the dimensions of a business page banner are 1128 by 191 tall, so 1128 wide by 191 tall. I'm going to go into Canva and we're going to create a custom dimension size for that banner. Now there are templates within Canva that can really help out, but I like to do a custom size and learn what the custom size so I can manipulate it and make it the size I want. So you see I did a custom size 1128 191. It's going to make this banner shape. Now you'll see there are some templates that automated on the left side in Canva, which can be helpful. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you how to use a couple of the tools so you have a little bit more control on your own. The first, I'm going to change the background up at the top to a neutral gray color. The focus of this tutorial is really just to learn some basic tools. Now I'm going to move into the text tool and I'm going to do a basic heading with some black text. And I'm going to resize the text, not only with the font size tool, but also pulling on the edges of the text itself within Canva. You also see that if you select all of the text, you can manipulate it and change any feature of it. Right now I'm changing the font style on the left side after I've selected all of the text. And you can also select independent parts of the text, as I'm going to do here, and resize the top part, the digital futures, to be larger. And I'm also going to change the color of that text to draw a little bit more attention to it. So I've selected it, I'm centering it. I made the background black because I'm going to create a little bit of contrast between the text. I turned all of the text white. And now I'm going to select the digital futures text and make that red. Now I have, a font, red and white, add a little contrast, very basic. And now I'm going to center it. And now let's take a look at if we were going to add an image to this. I'm taking a picture of myself, I'm dragging it on, and if you notice an image you can pull and shape any way you want. I am not going to keep this image on here because remember that within the LinkedIn banners on the business pages, you already have your picture there, so you don't need to add another one. But it would work if you wanted to add another graphic, a logo, an icon onto the banner. That's exactly how you would do it. So I'm just fudging my text back a little bit, and now I'm going to export. I'm going to export as a PNG. It's a little bit smaller, faster file for the web. I'm going to click download. I'm now going to locate the download on my computer. And I'm actually going to go in to the LinkedIn page, selecting the location of the LinkedIn banner and identifying the download. I found my download image. I'm going to click open. And it will pop in. It will give you the opportunity to straighten the image, rotate the image, change the image. You can add a filter to your image. You can make the text a little bit larger, but it gives you a preview here within LinkedIn of options for the banner. And that's what it looks like. Centered, if you notice, there's also a photo there that is already there, pre-populated from your LinkedIn profile and also added to this business page. And that's how you update a business header page.
I see Eval and instructional coaching as kind of like a good synthesis. You have this process everyone has to do. Coaching should be sustained, right? So here are two things that happen over the course of a year. A synthesis of those two, no matter what form, is going to be something that people have to do and kind of see their involvement with. The biggest components that I really wanted to have when I started thinking about rolling out eval goals is that targeted digital learning area description for goal banks. So I'll show you what our goal bank currently looks like in a moment, but it's really around selecting items that are really important to your district, that you think people are going to get excited about picking a goal for, and also that the specialist or the technology team can also identify what's important here with learning. And I'll show you our goal bank in just a minute. Sample goal language. Now, with the sample goal language, I started off very ambitious, and I was like, I think I can write a goal for each goal, like pretty clearly. After I wrote like one or two in that process, I pulled back and I said, you know what, the one thing that with EdEval goals that becomes tricky for people is the measures. And I think you can go right or wrong with a measure by trying to guess. And it was almost like I'd rather teach people how to fish than just give them fish and teach them how to identify measures. So I have some resources I'll also share around like my process of thinking about how to provide thoughts for measures for EdEval goals. Self-assessments. This is another part of EdEval system that I think is really, really valuable when done properly. So when I mean by self-assessments, not only the self-assessment of the educator coming off a goal cycle and starting a new one and saying, I want to do this particular item, this is really exciting to me, but also self-assessments in terms of where are they starting with the technology. So we're in the process of developing two self-assessments. One based on our digital learning standards, where a teacher will take an assessment, a self-assessment of understanding the level and depth that they'd be integrating digital learning standards, or at least their knowledge of the standards. And then another self-assessment on common applications and just their ability to use common applications or applications they're going to have specifically to a goal. And I'll talk a little bit more about our smart learning goal, which will specifically have a Lumio self-assessment because that's the software that works with Lumio on the smart boards. And that's part of the digital learning pre-assessment. And then of course a coaching plan. So the coaching plan is something that eventually works right with the benchmarking system of EdEval. They kind of come together really well. If you're developing a goal, you got to list your benchmarks. So what I've been working with my specialists in doing is when they're drafting these goals with teacher teams is those teachers need to have benchmarks. Those benchmarks should be monthly meetings of reflection. So the coaching plan essentially becomes the benchmarks in the EdEval system. And basically a monthly meeting where we're collecting some data, we're collecting some feedback, and we're also like reflecting in the process of what the next level of support will be. So those are kind of the core components of what I've been working on for what a digital education EdEval goal would look like. So of course barriers, I know every district has, some people have these roles, some people don't. But there's also the bandwidth of the role, whether or not they're doing tech support, whether or not they have a real opportunity to do more integration. I definitely think if you have areas of interest, like maybe a smartboard project or you're adopting a new platform, it's a perfect time to maybe say, let's add a goal in our goal bank for that, even if it's like a first step. Just because you have people excited and want to learn. Supporting the instructional coaches with resources, time, and technology is huge. I would not be able to even do this unless I knew they had collab time. And even as I started drafting goals, I was thinking to myself, they don't have enough time. If we have more people who want goals than specialists who can serve them, it's going to be a time challenge. So, that's not what's happening right now. It's kind of in an okay place. And I told the specialists, I said, if there's a ton of people with goals, that's great. If there's 3 people with goals, that's fine. Because at the end of the day, it's about supporting those people over time and doing the best you can with them. And I didn't want pressure. I didn't want them to feel pressure. And I recently had a similar conversation along the same lines with a teacher who was working with a team. Well, I wanted to have a professional learning goal for my team around the coaching process, basically bringing us together to discuss our role out of this. And the teacher wanted to actually, mention maybe she could focus on, working with 2 teachers who wanted to do the goal. And I pulled her back and I said to her, it's almost more important for us as a team for us to work together. You're always going to be able to support those teachers, but you're going to be a better coach if you work with our team and thinking about the strategies. Because you're always going to have the opportunity to work with those people, and if they want to work with you, that's great, and they can have the goal, but as a specialist, you should be kind of within our circle of our team, because we're going to be able to look at the goals as a whole, different educators, and measure how the measures look. And I think that's a really important part for our team this year, is being able to have that reflection time and say, oh, that's how those goals worked, and these how these goals worked. What was the difference? What were the hang-ups? Of course, selecting effective measures and digital pedagogy for educators and instructional specialists as coaches. So, some people haven't transitioned the concept of the instructional specialist to a coach kind of idea, and I think that's due to time available, and also the amount of communication it takes of this person working in a sustained way with an educator, because you need to have those pieces in place. I also think that digital pedagogy, I'm very intrigued by the idea of digital pedagogy. It's a topic that's out there in a lot of forms, but I don't think people understand it when they talk about it right away. So it takes a lot of unpacking. So and you'll see this a little bit in my presentation, is pedagogy. The digital pedagogy is super important. Like you can say, I want a teacher to be able to do this in a classroom, but a lot of what the coaching process is that stuff's going to come to you as you do it. It's not going to be something you say like, let's do that and get them to that point. What I'm learning is a lot of this is like gradual release, because you have the time and you're kind of building their capacity. So when you talk to them about some digital pedagogy, it can kind of be more confusing than it can be helpful. But I will show you a resource that I was kind of developing, because early on in my process, I was really trying to tie measures to pedagogy, because I wanted to have almost like a best practice for things in the classroom, to kind of see, like kind of measure for a measure, in terms of an outcome. The opportunities: sustained and committed goal setting, time commitment for focusing on a goal related to digital learning, which is huge, collaboration time and targeted support. The gradual release model is possible. That's something that I just recently kind of like hit me. I was talking with an educator who, working with a team, all planning on doing a similar goal. They did not, like what she was describing to me as their growth with the discussions and setting aside the time to work on this project around Romeo and smartboards. I was realizing like their mindset's different than if they were just doing like a one-off. They know I need more sustained time, I might need a PD day, I might need, more collaboration time. It's about allowing them to have a model that they can fail within and talk to each other about over time. Because a lot of times I think teachers can get very frustrated when something doesn't happen right away, or something didn't work the way it was supposed to work, or maybe they just didn't understand how the resource could be implemented. And I think that's because of time, and also the expectation around, this being a focus area, and sometimes resources get underutilized during that process. And of course, resource selection. So you'll see in some of my resources as well, how this process supports identifying specific technology resources. Hello everyone, I'm going to go into the creative design and select the A4 document setting inside of Canva. What this is going to do is it's going to create a paper size that's similar to 8.5 by 11, and I'm going to resize the frame of my view at the bottom so that I can see the document size I'm working with. And I'm going to go over to the elements on the left side, and I'm going to add a rectangle. I'm going to add a rectangle, and I'm going to resize this rectangle with the corners to make some multiple rectangles that are going to be used to hold my text of a newsletter. So you can see I'm pulling on the corners, I'm moving these rectangles where I really want to put it, and finding a size that I think will fit to the dimensions of the text boxes that I want to have. Now there are some templates within Canva that you can use, but I actually like creating things from scratch, so you could always feel free to use this idea.
or look at some of the available templates. So I'm going to take this rectangle and now I'm going to go up and select to duplicate the rectangle. And I'm going to do that multiple times. And now I'm going to move the rectangles so that they are equally spaced, so I can start to get an idea for how many I'm going to be able to fit and what my text boxes are going to look like. And if you notice in Canva that as you move the boxes, it also shows you the difference in distance between the boxes so that you can properly format the size of items that you're adding to the document. So now I'm resizing these rectangles down because I realized maybe I made them a little too large. And now I'm going to try to make them more consistent. And what you're going to notice is that Canva actually allows you to notice how different in size they are once it realizes that you're trying to make a similar sized rectangle or other shape. You can see that with the little pink numbers that are popping up. Go in and add now under elements an image that's going to be used as an image to block out where we're going to have images on the left side of these. So I've chosen a stock image that's available in Canva, a square image because I'm going to use square images along the left side of my rectangles here. And I'm duplicating that image just to get a better understanding of the spacing because I'm going to be able to add images that take the places of those images on the left side. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to add some text. I'm going to choose the add a heading text at the top here, and I'm going to move that up to the top and I'm going to format this text. I'm going to look at different font styles here on the left side, choose something that I think works. I'm also going to be able to adjust the size of that text up at the top with the font size. As long as it's selected, I can also default left, center the text, but I like to actually move the text with the move tool once it's selected. If it's longer text, you can also format it to fit. I've decided to default it left to those images that are on the left side and have similar margins. I now added the subtitle text, which I'm going to put with my header, which I'm going to put some subtitle text with a date of this newsletter. You'll see this bold, italicize, all sorts of options for formatting text. And now I have a header text, a subheading, images, and areas for writing content. I'm now going to go in and add some other images to take the place of the images that I placed as my placeholders. As you can see, you can pull them over, and what they do is they plop right into the squares that you added images into, unless they go into the background, which you see they kind of take the place of the background for a moment. So just be careful that you're not adding them as a background image. I will show you in just a moment how to edit the background if you are interested in doing something different in the background. But what you see now is I am selecting the image and the text box together to be able to move these two elements together. So moving the elements together is a very helpful part of Canva in keeping your design together. And now that I have these four text boxes, I have the option of using the shape, and I'm actually going to make an area at the very top of this newsletter design that I can add like a key kind of area for a main message of the newsletter. I just want to make sure that as I add this area that I'm making sure that it fits within the design that I currently have, and that if I add any elements, they match the other ones that I have going on, or if it's different, there's a specific reason why it's different. So I changed the background color. I'm now selecting that text at the top and formatting it. And And I'm fine-tuning the details around the text box that I added because it was a later addition to this design. I'm now going to use the text tool again and use the add a little bit of body text to add some body text to these elements. So I have some dummy text so that when I'm ready to add the actual text to this file, I'm really just copying and pasting and formatting. And then I've already kind of determined how the text will be formatted, what the font style will be, and how much will fit within a specific box. And if you notice, it's very easy to type within a text box and resize the text to fit the text box, which is a great benefit of using Canva, that you don't have to really work with the text too much to fit a very specific space. You have a lot of options of sizing the text down, or changing a font style, or moving the text up, or even changing a different, place where you start the text, or defaulting it left, right, or in the middle. So you have a lot of options for defining how the size of text fits spaces. I'm making this text white so that I can kind of see it as I'm formatting it and adding it to my elements. I'm now copying this text and pasting it within my other elements so that I can have an idea of how much text I can fit within each box, and then also what the background color needs to be, and also what some of the padding might need to be between the outside of the rectangle and the text, and also how much space I have to write. It also gives me an idea of how the text will look with the images that I've chosen. And if I want to get rid of something, it's very easy, but now I have a basic outline where I could literally copy and paste text into this newsletter in Canva. I have images formatted, they're aligned. And I'm now adding a footer at the bottom. This can be a space for your name, an email, a simple message, something to kind of bring attention and let people know that that's the end of the document. I'm just now resizing some of the header text to kind of fit what I think will look best. You always can move it around, see how it feels. Make some text larger if you wanted that text to be larger and draw more attention. Now that you have all the elements that you may want to add to your design. This is a chance to test the colors against each other, look at what font colors look better, what might be more stylized. Here I'm going to now duplicate an image so that I have a spot to put an image in to my top box next to my main content. I've also added from the elements a frame, a gold frame, and I'm now resizing that frame around that picture inside the box to draw some extra additional attention. But you'll notice that it does take me some finagling, some moving of that frame around the picture to have things centered. But once it is selected and I feel like it's centered, I can select them together and move them together. And once you have it just right, you will know it, it'll show you, and I feel like I got that right where I wanted it. Now I can literally select all of those elements together and move them if I want to. I'm going to make this box a little wider so things fit and it kind of aligns with those pictures that go down below it a little bit more as well, and also make sure that the text that I'm going to enter at the top has plenty of space. So here I can take advantage of, now that I have a lot of my elements in place, maybe adding some more space for some more text, but not compromising the images that I've had. Now, if I am going to make any massive changes to the images, I can do them all together. Now I'm going to use within the elements this triangle design that you'll see, the blue and yellow triangle design. I'm resizing these images down, making sure they're all the same size. And I'm going to add a little accent to each one of these images that's the same triangle design on the corner. And it's just, Canva has a lot of little elements that it's up to you to kind of utilize in the way that you think you could best utilize them. I'm going to draw that, bring that down, and format up in the corner of the picture. And what you'll see is I'm going to now format that for each picture. Now that I've added that element to each picture, I'm now going to make sure the elements all line up the way I want them to line up. And as you can see in Canva gives you these pink indicators, which allow you to understand how far certain items are from each other. But also the eye is a great tool too. If it looks right, you know, it's up to you. But you can always use these little tools to kind of make sure everything's lined up the way you want. This is also causing me to look a little bit more at my text now. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to select my rectangles. I'm going to show you how you can change the background. So right now, the background of my newsletter, because I've selected the background, I can then select any one of these colors that will either match the design, it will look for colors within the design, and it will adjust the background. I'm going to end up keeping mine white just so that it's consistent. I think I can draw more attention in some other ways, but if you want a colored background and maybe you're not printing in color or it's going to be black and white, ultimately you may want to just design it black and white with the end in mind. But if you are printing something in color and color is not either an expense issue or what you want, then you can do that. If you notice here, I've just selected the rectangles and now I'm adding a border. And you see, select a rectangle and then up at the top you have this border option. I'm going with a heavy border of 4 for each one of these, just to add a dark, thick border around each one, add some extra attention to those rectangles. And I'm going to look at some different fonts now. Now that I've looked at the design and I want to try to see what might work better, I'm selecting specific items that I might want to adjust or adjust the size of, adjust the fit of the elements. Now that everything is laid out, it's much easier to see what's going to work a little bit better. If there's something I need to center better, if I want something lined up more, here is a chance to kind of do that, to resize things, because you can select the elements either individually or as a group and move them the way you want to move them. And that's a great benefit to anyone who's trying to do something from scratch, is just to know what the capabilities are. So I've added this little bar that I'm highlighting. I grabbed that from the elements as well, and I'm making this little blue bar that I'm going to use to separate the text boxes, not all the way through, but through most of this. And once you have the size you like, you can actually duplicate it and have it be the exact same size all the way through. So I'm actually going to use that size, that smaller size. I'm going to bring it down, and I didn't want it at the top, so what I decided to do is just put it in between the rectangles that are below. sure it's centered. Now I'm going to duplicate it and just keep dropping a version down. I think I'm only going to put 3 in just to spice it up. And now I have that tiny element between my text that kind of keeps a continuum, but kind of keeps it all together. So essentially now I'm just updating and editing my footer at the bottom, and my design is almost ready to go. I'm just checking some of the alignment here on the left side with the images that I added. Looking pretty good. I'm making sure things are lined up, that they are lined up the way I want them to be. They look good. Everything's tight. And essentially I'm almost done with my draft of my newsletter. Have this ability to edit each element, so if there's something that you want to change, you can do it. I'm now selecting pairs of elements and I'm moving those individually to make sure that they are lined up the way I like. And now I'm essentially ready to basically go in, add my own text from another document that I've created, paste it in here, and then download and print or download and share or make the document a link. I'm just moving a couple images in the final stages. Nothing has to be the way it was. And now I think we're ready to give it a sample download just to see what it's going to look like. So let's go to share. And then I'm going to select actually a JPEG version. So I'm going to go from the PNG. I'm going to max out the size so I can see pretty much the highest quality. And I'm going to choose JPEG. I could also choose PDF, which might be helpful for a newsletter, but I'm going to stick with JPEG and download that. Let's take a look. Here it is, you'll see it downloads. And here is the JPEG view of the newsletter. There it is, ready for printing, ready for proofing, ready to take a look, and then go back into Canva and add some text. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. I hope this helps you get your newsletter off the ground if you wanted to do it from scratch in Canva. A lot of tools available here. I've had a great time making these newsletters or making projects in Canva and looking at the high resolution of the graphics. I appreciate the time you spent with me. Thank you. Just to start off, I'm going to give you a basic overview of the ADDIE instructional design model. The ADDIE instructional design model is aimed at giving an iterative approach to instructional design. There's the analysis phase in which the instructional designer is clarifying the instructional problems and objectives that are needed with the course and identifying the learning environment for the learners. There's the design phase in which the design of the course begins, learning objectives, assessments, instruments, exercises, and content is begun to be looked at and chosen and selected for the course. This needs to be systematic and specific so that it's targeted for specific courses and it's logical. Students can follow along with the process and they can understand the design of the structure of their learning. The design phase may also involve writing and creating a document which outlines the course and the instructional objectives of the course. And then you move into the development phase. In the development phase, that's where you're actually creating the course, you're putting the instructional design elements of instructional objectives to targeted learning objectives, and you're beginning to develop and create content that meets the students' learning needs. There's storyboarding, there's multimedia that may become important at that point. People begin testing the course and seeing how the content flows and whether learning objectives are being met. Then there is the step of the implementation phase. At the implementation phase, you're basically testing the course. You're you have a course developed, you've put it in place, you have instructional objectives, you have content to meet those instructional objectives, and a guide for instructors to put those into place. Facilitators have a clear message of how the content is to be taught, the delivery, there are delivery methods that are clearly laid out, and how the course is assessed is in place. At this phase of implementation, it's also an important stage to also look at the course and begin to evaluate the effectiveness of the pieces in place. And that moves us into the evaluation phase. Once the evaluation phase begins, you're beginning to look at what was successful within the course design. Were students engaged at one point and not another? Are there formative and summative learning points of assessments that allow you to understand what was learned and what may need improvement in the course? And with ADDIE, this is an iterative process. So after the evaluation phase, it is important to go back through these steps and improve the course. So that is the basics of the ADDIE course design model, is that you move through these phases and then you iteratively update the course. So the basics of this video is really around how does digital pedagogy fit into this instructional design model. Welcome back to Digital Futures Education. In this video, we're going to introduce you to some of the best tools to help support your instruction with social emotional learning, project-based learning, digital assessments, and student creativity. This video is going to provide a basic overview of these tools, and some of these tools have free and paid versions. So just keep an eye out on what features are free and which ones are not. They're designed to help you support your instruction in the classroom to support student creativity and engagement with classroom content. I selected these tools because they fit within the instructional cycle of engaging students, personalizing their learning, and allowing a variety of student product outcomes. Some of them are Chrome extensions, standalone websites, or PC or Mac downloads. So just keep an eye out as I describe the tools and what the environment in which the students will be using them will be. And if you have any questions around student data privacy with these tools, feel free to reach out to me directly, and I'll be happy to help. Let's take a look at a variety of these tools now.
To address social emotional learning, I want to introduce you to the 7 Mindsets website. They have a digital SEL curriculum available here. They also have some paid versions, but I think it's worthwhile to go to the 7mindsets.com digital SEL curriculum page, and what you'll see is that there is a framework around the 7 mindsets and 28 learning objectives around SEL learning. And they're saying here that there's only 10 minutes of time with these resources, but it is good to see that something's tied to Bloom's taxonomy. There is a framework for SEL. You can tie it into maybe some of your existing instruction, and it has this framework of addressing 7 mindsets of social emotional learning. I just wanted to introduce you to this site so that it's something that you can take a look at to begin the school year, to frame your mindset around what these mindsets are, to see how you can then introduce them into your curriculum. The next tool I want to recommend for social emotional learning and also assessment is Pear Deck. So Pear Deck is a powerful tool that essentially is presentation based, in which when students are shared a presentation that you have designed or you're using one of their pre-formulated templates, you are able to collect student data around their responses to particular questions in the presentation. They can indicate to you, how they're feeling that particular day. If that's something you're interested in, you could have them respond to particular questions. It's a very interactive tool. So as long as students have a device and students have access to a device and are shared the presentation and follow along with your guidance, they're able to interact with the presentation. And the free version is very powerful. So don't be afraid to try out the free version and sign up for the free account. And also they have a number of available resources here, like the science behind Pear Deck, effortless integrations with other applications. They have some ready to teach lessons already here on their website about, that you could try out with students to see if you like the platform before maybe making your own. And of course, under the teacher resources, they have additional training, ready to teach lessons, their blog, and some help videos to help you get started. So there is a free and a paid version, but there is enough content within the free to be able to get started with Pear Deck, and I highly recommend it, especially for checking in with students, having presentations in which engage them with their content. And I can recommend this pretty much K through 12 because it does give a lot of flexibility with instructional content. So the first tool for digital portfolios within project-based learning I would recommend is Seesaw. Now, this is primarily a tool that is used within grades K through 5 to allow students to create digital portfolios. So the benefit to these portfolios created within Seesaw is that not only is the content shared from the teacher to the students, and the students add media artifacts like text, images, student responses to assessments, parents also have access to be able to see what their students create in their classroom. So as you can see in the video here, they're writing on the iPads, they're interacting with each other, they're taking photos on the iPads and then adding them to their portfolio. It's a powerful tool for just getting students started with a digital portfolio, and also engaging parents is the really big sell here. It allows parents to kind of see the work, like their students' work, be very familiar with what's going on in the classroom. So it's a great K-5 digital portfolio tool if you haven't tried it yet. I know a lot of districts now use it, and it's a great way to kind of get started with digital portfolios. A tool that's been around a while, and it's particularly really a great tool for a long time, has been Padlet. This is one of the go-to kind of collaborative spaces for creating an interactive digital board, which can have privacy. You can have a private board, you can have a board that you only invite certain emails to. You could have students work in collaborative groups or with you on a board. And then you see them in different formats: food, maps, Kanban, timeline, portfolio, org charts, presentations, video playlists. Now, Padlet's been around for a while, and they changed their free version that limits the total number of boards, but it's still an amazing tool. I don't think you have to go to the paid version particularly to kind of get a major benefit out of it, but you see there's a lot of different options with a very simple tool. And the privacy settings are very good, and it's an easy to use tool. So I highly recommend it for, classroom projects where you need students to collaborate and put ideas out and see them. Super easy to use, been around for a while. Highly recommend Padlet for collaboration in the classroom, particularly with media assets, links, text, and just general ideas. So for digital formative assessment, I want to recommend something that maybe people aren't familiar with. I know there's Kahoot is out there. There's a lot of Socrative is out there. There's a lot of different digital assessment tools. So I wanted to share something a little different. And the one I wanted to share was Flickrs. Now, the way that Flickrs works is that the teacher does create the digital assessment on a device. And then what happens is students actually use cards to respond. So I'm going to show you this little video where a teacher pushes out an assessment and the students respond using the cards, and the teacher then receives their response. Students are taking other answers.
You can tell me. All 5 years.
And she's now collecting the data of those students' responses, and it will show up within the platform. So it's a pretty cool tool. Flickrs, definitely you get a chance to try it out. It's just a kind of a different take, gives students kind of a hands-on way to respond to a digital assessment, which is a little more engaging sometimes than maybe a traditional assessment where maybe they enter a code and then they enter or click on an answer. It's just a different way of doing it. But I think it's pretty cool. And of course, in their homepage here, they have a lot of different examples from people who tweeted out pictures and images around how they've used it in the classroom. So now I'd like to go over some of the creative tools that are great within a project-based learning environment, and also great for just allowing students to have a variety of different products to create. The first one is book creators. We'll start with the younger levels here. I would say, from K1, 2 up through grade 5, Book Creator is an amazing tool to help support students creating interactive books. So basically, they have pages of an interactive book in which they can add text, images, links from the web. They have the ability to basically write their own stories and then share those interactive books with others. So it's an amazing tool to help students kind of begin to learn how to create digital portfolios that exist within an interactive type of book environment. And it's a great resource for them to share, look at, read, critique each other. And it's also very easy for a teacher to be able to manage and easy to use. And I also recommend that it is a way for students learning how to add digital assets, pictures, links at very younger levels. And the iPad app and the web app both function really well, and it's easy to start getting to use very quickly in the classroom if you're new to these types of digital tools. The next tool is one of those more amazing tools that in the last couple of years has really been transforming how people create graphics, and that's Canva. The very first thing I'll say is make sure you get the educator account. So sign up with your educator email, and when prompted, get an educator account, the .edu accounts, because they allow you to have more access to different stock images, fonts, and also icons within the platform. Now, what makes Canva great is its ease of use and also its ability to create a wide variety of graphics, videos, animations. And it gives an amazing number of options for students to use. So it really has an amazing amount of resources if you're going in to want students to create different posters, graphics, brochures, one-pagers, infographics. You can really work with students, especially in that middle school through high school level, and learning how to organize information in a graphical way. And Canva really helps support making that creation easy. So I highly recommend this tool, particularly grades 6 through 12. Even if you're teaching college, it's an amazing way to help students create graphics, videos. They can even create videos within the platform, and also animations, web graphics, all sorts of different options. So I highly recommend Canva, but just make sure you also get the education. The final resource I want to share is Adobe Spark, another resource that I highly recommend for that grades like 6 and above. Adobe Spark is part of the Adobe Express suite. So if you are using it within your school district, just be sure the student emails are managed within a portal, because I do believe there are some privacy concerns with them creating their own emails for Adobe because they are unmanaged. So just double check with your technology director or principal around how the best way for you to use the Adobe products are, because it's best when the accounts are all managed within the Adobe portal. Now, with that aside, Adobe Spark is an amazing way to have students make digital presentations, posters, graphics, very similar to Canva, videos, and having amazing graphics. But it's key that you within the Adobe Express platform to have the most resources available for students. So that's the final digital tool recommendation for student creativity. And they have so many resources for you to kind of dig into and support you in working with Adobe products. And it's highly recommended. The final tool I want to share that I think is an amazing tool that I personally have used for developing common assessments with grade level curriculum information and curriculum is EduElastic. So EduElastic, the power behind EduElastic is that EduElastic allows you to create questions, enter answers, create basically digital assessments, which are also tied to standards and other frameworks. So it's a very powerful tool that once you start to implement these digital assessments through their form system, then it also allows you to take the data and accurately track the student responses. So what I'll do is they actually have a great video right here on their website. I'll actually play that and give you a little feeling about how it works.
Technology has changed the K-12 classroom. Edulastic, a digital assessment platform, is one of those technologies that is taking student learning to the next level.
We are diving into data, specifically in math and ELA and science. I'm grateful that we have a tool like Edulastic to be able to look at that, not just at the end of the year, but every single day.
Honestly, the data that you get from it is transformative in the classroom. I'm able to use that information immediately to change my lesson plans, whether it be the next day. I can even change it during that actual class time.
Edulastic has helped students with standards mastery because you can assign specific standards to each individual student, differentiated as well.
When we got our test scores back at the end of the year, we were really excited about our growth that we had within our school district.
Edulastic has totally redone everything for us. I mean, it just has made it so easy.
Edulastic improves learning and instruction with its standards-based questions, automatic grading, and instant insights and reports. Educators can easily insert multimedia to make assessments more engaging. Educators have access to over 3,000 Edulastic certified assessments, 38,000 standards-tied questions, and over 30 question types.
So I'll stop right there, but as you can see, it gives you that a standards-based approach to reviewing student answers, a lot of cool interactive media content as you design questions, and overall a very great version, even in the free version, of how you can develop a digital assessment for a wide range of students.
Thanks for reviewing these tools with me. And if you feel like you may need additional professional development in digital assessments, please feel free to check out digitalfutureseducation.com for the options available there in terms of videos or in-person or online training. You should find that these tools help assist with your SEL instruction, student creativity with project-based learning, digital assessments, and also your students' ability to expand upon projects and other creative endeavors in the classroom. Thanks for checking out the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.